Hey everybody, welcome back to A Late Show. Let's talk to a band leader, Jon Batiste. What's going on? How's your day been?
It's been good. You know, it's raining a little bit out there, but I got some hoops in right before. Boom!
How can you possibly? Aren't you ever afraid you're going to jam a finger? And
Yeah,
then that's it. Curtains. It's back to
I
law
only
school.
play by myself. That's why I don't.
Oh,
play
nobody
pickup
passes
no
to
more.
you.
No, I just shooting, just practicing on getting the stroke happening. Swap.
Oh, that's nice.
Swap.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It's a nice
I've
concentrating.
Oh, it says like a meditation?
Yes.
Well, that's nice. I do the same thing I do this meditation where I close my eyes and I don't get up for 8 hours. It's just, delightful.
You get an 8. I'd imagine that you got 8 in.
I did, and last night I woke up at 5, something like that. You know, generalized anxiety, John.
Oh yeah. I mean, you don't have too much on your plate.
Could you play a little something that maybe would relieve my generalized anxiety? Could I ask that of you, my friend?
Oh, of course.
Thank you. I feel good today.
You see, that always lifts me.
The first 6 months of the show, when we're trying to figure out how to do it, we're like, I'm not sure how we're gonna like hit this cleanly every night. John would finish every show with that song, and every show I would go out there and sing it with him, and every night it made me feel better. Like that was like a life raft for me at the end of every night, and to hear the audience sing along with us made
Yes.
all the difference in the world. And I'll be grateful forever that you gave that to all of us at the end of every show. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, I love that. It's an honor.
Jon Batiste, everybody. The honor's all ours. Joining me now is an author, clinical psychologist, and niece of President Trump, who has written a book about their family called Too Much and Never Enough. Please welcome Mary Trump. Mary, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, Stephen. Thank you for having me.
Now, before we get started, have you seen my show? Because I talk about your uncle a lot.
I have indeed seen your show.
Okay, good. And do you enjoy it? Are you okay with my show?
I think it's amazing, actually.
I never thought I would hear that. A Trump enjoys my show. Thank you so much. I was definitely fishing, but thank you very much. Okay. Now, you've got a PhD in psychology.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that the last 4 years are just some sort of disturbed fever dream that we're all just going to wake up from?
I hope that's the case every day. But unfortunately, I don't think so. Sorry. So, yeah, we have our work cut out for us, I'm afraid.
Now, your book about your uncle, your grandfather, your father, and the entire family is called Too Much and Never Enough. What does that title refer to?
When I started formulating this book, it was really important to me to look back and try to make sense of how we got to where we are today. And in looking at the dynamic that existed between Donald and his father, my dad and his father, and Donald and my father, I saw some patterns. And I came to the conclusion that they had had an extremely difficult childhood. And in the context of child abuse, there are two ways it can function. Either you get too much of something, too much encroachment, too much negative attention, too much unrealistic expectation. And that's what my father, as the oldest son, namesake, and heir apparent, suffered from my grandfather. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's the not enough attention, not enough mirroring, not enough affection, not enough love. So I started from there. But then in thinking of my family as an entity, and as my grandfather as the head of it, who seemed to be only interested in money, these were people who had too much of that because it doesn't seem to have done them much good. And because of the vast wealth they possessed, it's almost as if, certainly for Donald, like he didn't have to try very hard. And the other problem is when money is the only currency in your family, there's never enough of it because it can never take the place of things that really matter, like love and affection.
You get that sense from the president, and again, I don't know the man intimately. I've met him a few times, and certainly I've studied his behavior. Is that he is always seeking a validation, and no matter what it is, when he opens the wrapper of it, it's always empty. It's never satisfying for him, whether it's the presidency itself, or a military parade, or the praise from every person he meets. How, as someone who's studied clinical psychology and childhood trauma, how would you, I don't want to say treat, but how would you address someone like that? Is there anything that could be done for the president to give him some sort of solace, which in some ways would be better for the rest of us?
It's an awful answer, and I hate saying it, but I think the answer is no. Partially because it's extremely difficult to help somebody who's not aware he needs help. I think at this point in his life, it would be impossible for Donald to admit to any kind of weakness or incapacity that needs to be addressed. He also, unfortunately, seems to be surrounded by people who are perfectly happy having him behave the way he behaves now, for whatever their agendas may be. They're not that interested in making Donald a better person.
I spoke to Ambassador Bolton a few weeks ago, who said that he had never seen a head of state who was so easily manipulated by other heads of state, by strong men, who played him, as he said, like a fiddle. Is there something about your uncle's, the makeup of his personality that makes him manipulatable?
Sure, and that's also something that we can lay at the feet of my grandfather, because Donald realized from a fairly young age that the only way to succeed where my father failed was to be the kind of person my grandfather needed him to be. The killer, the tough guy, somebody who could never admit weakness or could never admit being wrong. We basically find ourselves now with a person who just needs to have the things he has to believe about himself. He's the greatest, the best, repeated or told him by somebody else in order to make him malleable. And I think I write in the book that that's one of the things my grandfather did. He made Donald eminently useful to smarter, more powerful men. And that's an extremely dangerous situation for us to be in, considering the power that Donald has at his disposal.
When you say that your father failed, I assume you mean in the eyes of your grandfather. And in what ways, what is that quote unquote failure in the eyes of your grandfather that your uncle, Donald Trump, saw? Like what was the thing that he didn't do for his family that Donald Trump had to step up and overcome in his own life, out of fear, I assume?
Yeah, absolutely. I think fear is the most powerful factor that runs throughout the family.
I think that's something the president uses. He's using it now. He's falling back on the crutch of fear, saying that Joe Biden's going to eliminate suburbs.
Yeah, which I guess is a thing that we didn't know existed.
We did not know, exactly.
Yeah. But yes, fear and fear of humiliation, because he wields humiliation as a weapon quite frequently as well. So because Donald had, I guess, the advantage of being 7.5 years younger than my dad, he was able to see what he should not do if he wanted to avoid the kinds of punishment my grandfather subjected my dad to. My dad, who had every intention of fulfilling his role as heir apparent and taking over my grandfather's business, also happened to be a very kind, generous person. He dared to have interests outside of business. He loved boats and fishing and water skiing and flying, obviously. His friends adored him. So because my grandfather didn't value any of that, and believed that that just took away from my dad's, what should have been my dad's sole purpose, which is working at Trump management. Donald learned the lesson that if you want to survive and succeed in this family, you shouldn't be kind, you shouldn't be generous, and you shouldn't care about anything else, and you certainly shouldn't be interested in whether or not people loved you.
We have to take a quick break, but stick around, everybody. We'll be right back with more Mary Trump.